And here we are. I am here with the amazing Patricia Ann Talley. I just see you doing so many things, and I love how you're always expressing and sharing information about the Black culture in Mexico, because a lot of people are looking for that. And I just wanted to learn more about you, and I know that my listeners want to learn too. So please, madam, introduce yourself. Tell us a little about yourself.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. I'm an old Blacksite in that I came to Mexico on October 18th, 1997.
Wow.
I'm a former advertising commercial banker, advertising executive, ran an agency in Chicago, and decided to go back and do my doctorate work at University of Michigan in international business in emerging markets. So I initially came here just to do 1 year research project.
Wow.
I tell my students I'm a slow learner.
So, so
27 years later.
that is so interesting. So, of course, you must be fluent in Spanish by now.
I've never taken Spanish lessons. I've learned by immersion. And because I came down with advanced degrees and affiliated with the universities, my work with the university professors taught me Spanish.
Yes. And was it really difficult for you? Or did you just I think that a lot of times, and people are always wanting to talk about this because, I live in Panama.
Okay.
And, I think now that I'm here more full time, it's just amazing how my vocabulary is just growing. And was that your experience, just little by little?
Well, when you go down when you gotta eat, and you go down to the to the mercado, because this is before we had grocery stores, and they're in kilos, and you're in pounds, and they're in Spanish, and you're in English.
That's right.
You start learning real fast about the vocabulary. And I still go to the meat market to this day, almost 30 years later, and the owner, still same owner.
Wow.
And he says, "Oh, my Esther Patty, what do you want?" and I do my hands like this much because I've never learned the kilos.
Okay. Yeah, I know. It's foreign to us.
I'm big. he
foreign to us. But also, 27 years ago, there was no Google Translate.
No, I brought the first laptop to town.
Wow.
No one had ever seen a laptop.
Wow.
And this was right at the age of changing technology, which is what motivated me to make the transition. We were going from fax machines to this new thing called internet.
Yes. Yes. Isn't that something?
When I went to grad school, the computer was a building. Yeah. So with this new technology of the internet, and affordable calculating machine.
Wow. So, and you're right, because I remember, just computers taking up whole rooms. Right. Like it was called the computer room, just amazing how far we've come. And I think that, we kind of hopping all over the place, but technology has really allowed us the opportunity to Blacksite and to be able to, I think part of it is that we've just never been able to see other people doing this. Not that Black people haven't Blacksited before or moved to other countries, but we just didn't have access to them in a way that we could see them, learn about their experience, get to explore other countries through their experience in those places too. So it has just opened up a world for us. So you came in 97 to study. So that was your reason.
actually booked to go to Acapulco.
Okay.
I have a relationship with hurricanes.
Oh.
And that year it was Hurricane Paulina. And the flight actually got rerouted from Acapulco to Zihuatanejo, which is one of the landing ports for Black people coming into Mexico.
What did you call it?
Zihuatanejo.
Zihuatanejo. Okay.
If anybody remembers the Shawshank Redemption.
Zihuatanejo.
Zihuatanejo.
Yes. See, those of us that aren't good in Spanish, we be trying to use phonics, you know what I mean? So go ahead. So you ended up there, and that's where the Black culture was.
As it is in Acapulco, people do not realize that the two main landing points for Black Africans coming into Mexico were the ports of Acapulco, Zihuatanejo, and then Veracruz.
Wow.
People know about Veracruz, but they don't know about the other side.
I never heard of the others, though. I mean, I heard of Acapulco, and I didn't know that had a rich culture. That's got a rich Black culture?
Oh.
What?
I love to go to Acapulco. All the brothers be saying, "Hey, Mama, see, hey." Love going to Acapulco. Guerrero, my state of Guerrero, has the largest Black concentration in the entire country.
Now that's where you live now, right?
And have been here all these years.
So how close in proximity to that is Playa del Carmen or like Cancun?
Other side of the country.
Other side
of the country. Playa del Carmen and Cancun are on the Atlantic side, Caribbean side. Guerrero, Oaxaca, we're on the Pacific side.
Okay.
So totally other side of the country.
So you ended up there and you just loved it?
Well,
did you love it right away or?
No, I came down to do 1 year of research for my doctorate in economic development in emerging markets. Okay, out of University of Michigan. 1 year.
Yes.
What my theme was have MBA, laptop, will consult for free. I volunteered my services around the community.
Wow.
My goal was to go back to Michigan and teach international business. Well, in that 1 year, I realized that I hadn't learned sufficiently to go back to be a professor.
Okay.
And I went back and talked to my academic advisor, the great C.K. Prahalad. He's a global strategist out of India. And he was my mentor. And he said, Patricia, I challenge you to stay 5 years.
Wow.
Go down. He said, nobody else will have had that kind of experience. Go down, start a business. You have had a business background. I had been an entrepreneur for some 20 years at that time. He said, go do it. So.
Is that when you started the restaurant?
Yeah, I came down and a little girl that was in my condo complex would swim with me every afternoon. And one day I made her some fried chicken. And fried chicken is not something that is part of the Mexican gastronomy.
Cuisine.
Well, all that led to when she had her 5-year birthday party, her asking her mother, would you ask Senora Patty to make fried chicken for my birthday party? Made fried chicken for the birthday party. Then all the mamas wanted me to make fried chicken for their stuff. My father was a leader in the fast food industry. He was vice president of operations for Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Wow.
So I called Daddy and asked him to come help me open up a restaurant. And we had a fried chicken restaurant in Expat, Zihuatanejo. This was back, again, many years ago. This was like about 2000, 2001, somewhere around in there.
Wow. I mean, that right there are things that you cannot do in Panama as far as business if you are just a resident. And I want to talk to you about being a dual citizen. But that right there, what the story that you just told is like an example that I give about those paper blinds that we put up to our windows when you first move into the house, you go get them from Home Depot for $5 or whatever. When we bought this house in 2012. And I put those paper blinds, and if you clip them, they can make the nice little round part at the bottom. Man, neighbors was knocking on my door asking me where I got them blinds. Were they really expensive? Oh my gosh, they're so beautiful. And it dawned on me at that moment. There are so many opportunities when you are in a new place. And for you, and people need to be mindful of that, fulfilling a need. Nobody is, to us in the United States, I mean, fried chicken, we love us some fried chicken, but there is a joint on every corner selling it. But for you to be in a new space and introduce that, then you're cornered the market.
Fried chicken, hamburgers, apple pies, sweet potato pies. Okay. So, and you're talking about immersing and learning the language.
Mm-hmm.
I've learned the two ways to integrate into this community. I cooking for people, and I taught. Okay. Between those two
cooking
things,
for people and what else, Patricia?
And teaching.
Uh-huh.
Between those two things, I've interacted with so many people, and people still 30 years later will come up to me and call me Chick, because that was the name of the restaurant.
Wow.
and ask, are you cooking anytime soon?
So are there more like soul food restaurants in that area now?
Well, it's what you call soul food. Pulled pork comes from Africans coming off the boats.
Mm-hmm.
Jamaica water comes from Africans. Watermelon comes from Africa.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So there are many, the cuisine, especially on this side of the country, is greatly influenced by the African presence here.
Wow.
So we might not be making things exactly like they do in the United States. However, I learned how to make cornbread from Mexicans.
Really? Did you put some corn in it and jalapenos or?
Well, because we don't have corn meal, so Quaker doesn't sell cornmeal here.
Uh-huh.
Which is another opportunity for business. But anyway,
right?
They get the kernels of corn, grind them, and then make cornbread. And so still to this day, one of my academic colleagues came in this past weekend. The president of Mexico Negro Association Civil, they're the largest civil rights organization in the country.
Wow.
And she walks in to come see me to talk to me about some plans with a bag of ground cornmeal. Okay. I said, I know what that means. She said, yeah, I'm gonna sit on your sofa and think, but can you make us some cornbread?
So when you say they ground up the corn kernel. Do they cook it first, or do you cook it first, or just fresh off the corn?
I treat it just like cornmeal. Once it's ground, I use the same recipe that I would do at home using that ground corn.
Wow.
Cornmeal.
Wow, that is cool.
It's the same thing. It's a different species of corn.
Yeah. Yes. And the texture is probably different, right?
Mm-hmm. The texture is probably different.
That is awesome. That is awesome. Tell me about let's touch on your dual citizenship for a second. So when you came in 97 and you were challenged to do another 5 years, And you did, and apparently that went well because you're still there. 27 years later, when did you decide to become a dual citizen, and what was that process like, and how has it changed now?
Well, that's another story as well, because after the restaurant, I went back to the United States, formed a venture capital group of Black investors, and came down here, and we bought a hotel and 3 restaurants.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? From an American person.
Okay.
You had to have your residency, and you had to be filed with the tax authorities.
You had to have your residency in Mexico, and you had to be like registered.
Registered.
Uh-huh.
So I operated that, unknowing that the American woman that was selling the property to me had financial problems, health problems. Make a long story short, we had 17 armed gunmen show up at the door one morning and kick us off of the property that we had not had full title yet to, because we were in the process of this land contract. So they kicked us off of the property, and we ended up living in the village. Now, I'm relating that to the citizenship, because the corporation in which we operated that hotel sponsored our residency and our work visa. When we lost the hotel, we also lost our working visa.
Oh, wow.
So I had to go down to immigration, sit up and talk to them about what to do. We had been there. When I say we, I came down here by myself first, and 3 years later, I met a man and came down here with me and we ended up getting married.
Oh.
So the only thing we could do is get deported. And I caution people coming down to do business, because you can get in situations, if you are not legally registered, where you will get deported.
Yeah.
And so we had to get, at that time, you had to have almost 10 years of residency to be able to apply for citizenship. So by us having to leave the country and come back meant we had to start that whole process over again. We lost 7 years out of the 10 years. So we had to start the whole process over again for citizenship. Now it is easier than back then. Now at 5 years and 6 months after you've had your permanent residency.
Okay.
Because you can get temporary residency that says you can stay for 2 years.
Right.
Permanent residency to show that you are financially sound, that you won't be a burden on the economy. You have to have it for 5 years, 6 months, and then you can apply for Mexican citizenship.
And when you applied, so you can apply pretty much after being a permanent resident for 5.5 years. So that means basically 7.5 years with the provisional part, 2 years in the front. Then you get your permanent, and then it's 5.5 years. I think it's that way too. In Panama, a lot of people don't really go for the citizenship,
right?
But
it has its advantages if you are teaching work. I've always worked.
Yes.
Okay, I've always had businesses here.
Yes.
So for me, that took away all of that foreign reporting and all of that crap. Okay. And opened up the door for me to do just virtually anything I want to do because I'm a citizen.
Right. So now in Mexico, do they have restricted occupations?
Yes, they do.
And so you as a citizen, you are eligible, right, to do anything that a natural born Mexican can do. Correct. Okay.
And they do have restricted occupations, restricted, like especially in the tourism area.
Yes.
lots of things. Or if you are a Mexican company, you can only employ 10% of your workforce with foreigners.
Yes, it's the same in
Mhm.
Panama.
So there are some restrictions,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm not restricted in
Right,
terms of what activities I would want to do.
right. Now let me ask you this. Is it still like, say if somebody is there in Mexico and they have their permanent residence, okay, and they have 3 years, and then they end up having to go back to the States for some reason. When they go back to the States, do they lose that time? Or is it a matter of, if you go back to the States for a certain, if you're gone out of the country for a certain amount of time, is that when you would you lose your like seniority?
I don't think so, but I always tell everyone to check with their
Yeah.
local
Mm-hmm.
local immigration.
Yes.
I know I had to leave for a while and I went into the immigration and with my accountant, and we just put everything suspended, everything for,
Uh-huh.
it was a year, okay,
Mm-hmm.
saying that coming back, but just
Yes.
suspending things.
Yes.
It's been nice because I haven't had to deal with all that stuff for so long now.
Yes.
That and that's another thing that I caution expats is getting those things set up. The first time I set up my Mexican corporation, I had an American lawyer here in Mexico do it for me. He charged
Mm-hmm.
me 10,000 US dollars. The second time I set up my Mexican corporation, went straight to the Mexican notary. I had it done for the equivalent of $1,500.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
You went to a notary and they set it up, or did you do the paperwork and they notarized it?
Now, notaries here in Mexico are the only official attorneys. All
Oh,
right. So any type of property transaction or business transaction must be done in front of the notary.
right.
Now we have, quote, attorneys or real estate representatives that will give you legal advice,
Mm-hmm.
but to sell that, to do anything, you have to do it in front of the notary. And which brings up something else,
Okay.
because as I've gotten older, my husband died 7 years ago.
Hmm.
So I tell people I have been single, married, widowed
Widowed.
on both sides of the border.
Okay.
Okay. When we set up all these corporations with my husband and myself, never thinking about what's going to happen when one of us dies. So our properties, our businesses, our car, everything we had in the entire world was in the name of the businesses, and then he died. So I had to go through 3 years of working with the notary, transferring property. I literally had to sell my property, the business sell the property to me personally.
Wow. What would you have done differently? Would you have had, did you not have a will?
It didn't really matter with the will. Okay, you still had to change the title of the property, and the point is, what kind of taxes,
Wow.
inheritance taxes, those kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
So what I would do differently is thinking. I tell people now, fast forward to you're 73 years old and think backwards.
Mm-hmm.
Who would you want to leave your properties to? I have real estate properties and intellectual properties. How would you want things set up? You know,
Yes.
fast forward and think backwards,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm one of the few widows who ended up having to go through these business processes.
Wow.
And fortunately, I
Wow.
was a citizen. In fact, that's what generated me becoming a citizen. That's what really pushed it. Because I was saying, oh, I don't really need to be a citizen. I'm a permanent resident, blah, blah, blah. But when I sat down and talked to the notary and the attorneys and stuff, the easiest way for me to get all this property transferred, everything
Yes.
set up, was, Patricia, get your citizenship, and then boom,
Wow.
much
Wow.
easier. But that was almost 3 years process.
That's what I was going to say. So it was it the process to get the citizenship a 3-year process, or just to clear all of that up?
It was 2 years getting the citizenship, because only me. I go to get my citizenship. At that time, if you were over 60, you did not have to take the language exam or the history exam.
Okay.
If you're over 60. I go up to the counter to fill out my papers. On the television screen is Donald Trump talking about how Mexicans don't send us good people. They send us all of their. As I'm at the counter,
They side-eyeing you.
the clerk says, "You're from,
U.S.
Estados Unidos."
See.
Yes. Un momentito. Went back to the back, came back, and they decided on the spot that I had to take the language test.
Wow.
And I'm saying, but I didn't study for it. Okay.
Wow.
Oh, you're gonna have to take, if you Estados Unidos, you're gonna take the language.
You're gonna do what we tell you to do. In other words, and at the end of the day, that's another good point, and something that I make videos about all the time. Don't sit and think that you're going to do something later, because things can change at the drop of a dime. And when we used to have a friendly nations visa here in Panama, and apparently, it was like have $5,000 in the bank, and you pretty much good to go. I mean, you could open an account with 5,000, something like that. Very simple. They decided, I think it was August of 2021, that was over. In order for you to get a visa, a friendly nations visa here in Panama, you had to buy a house for $200,000. That's a whole, you either had to buy a house, you could come to a corporation, like you could establish a corporation. There's ways to go about, but things change. And like you said, at the drop of a dime, they made that decision.
They made that decision. Now, what was cute about it, once again, I'm affiliated with our Universidad Autónoma de Guerrero, our tourism university. And one of the professors there, Dr. Donna Jimenez Taylor, is the president and founder of Mexico Negro, the Civil Rights Association. We did a research project together, and I went down to the Costa Chica, which is the blackest area in Mexico.
Costa Chica?
Costa Chica.
Okay.
During the Day of the Dead activities, which is right around this time, and we did a research project. So I had studied that with her. I get to the counter for the language test, and it's a multiple choice question about the Day of the Dead. I said, oh, I got this. I got this. And a short essay. I wrote it all out, but you'd like to know any more? All in Spanish.
Okay? Yeah.
Lady says, 100%. She says, you must be a professor. I happen to know this subject.
Yes.
So I got the paperwork, but it was during an election year. And during election years, offices changed. It took me 2 years to finally get the piece of paper that said I was a citizen.
Wow.
It took me 2 years.
So with your elections, how does that work? Do your presidents, are they eligible to be reelected? And what is the length of their terms?
I think it's 6 years. Yeah, I'm eligible to vote. I am an uninformed voter. So this is what I'm studying right now,
Okay.
is to be an informed voter. As I am in the United States, I have two nationalities. I can vote.
Yes.
I vote in two places. I have two homes.
Wow.
So that, and it was so interesting to me because while we have voter suppression in the United States, when I went to go vote, I did vote for our mayor election, and I showed up at the voting place, and so the whole community is out. Do you know that they clapped for me? They made me cry. They made me cry. They said, "Oh, Maestra Patty, we're so proud of you. Eres mexicana, eres mexicana."
Oh,
The mayor
wow.
came up to me and hugged me. He said, "You are going to vote for me, right?"
That is awesome. Let me tell you something. They take voting very seriously here
Yes.
too. And even on election day, when there's an election, they do not sell alcohol.
Same here. No
They do
alcohol.
not sell, they want you to be clear-minded. And I guess don't go up in there getting into no brawls or nothing like that. But that's interesting, just the difference in the systems. And then, like you said, now somebody had said in Mexico, when a new president comes in, does the currency change? Is that true?
Not necessarily.
No.
Okay, but we have had some currency changes recently. Another thing about getting Mexican citizenship, in fact, I was supposed to go to the bank today, is that I get a pension from Mexico now. Not related in any way to working.
Wow.
I've always worked and had businesses, but I never had Social Security in Mexico deducted because I knew I was going to get it in the United States.
Yeah.
So this is not work related. Every person, every Mexican citizen over the age of 60 will get a pension every 2 months.
Really? How do they determine how much you get? Is it across the board?
Across the board.
What is it?
It's equivalent to 6 months of my expenses here.
Wow. Yes. Now there you go, girl. I love it.
Hey, I'm an old person. Go up to the bank, see all my old friends.
Patricia. So okay, that was a nugget right there. That's an incentive. So tell me this. What is the Black expat community like in Guerrero? And how are you treated in Mexico as a Black expat? And has that changed from the 27 years ago when you first went there?
Well, first of all, Guerrero is named after the first Black president, Vicente Guerrero of Mexico, who under his administration abolished slavery.
Wow.
Okay? So the state is named in his honor. People always ask me about the Black expat community, and I'm not familiar with the Black expat community. I'm familiar with the Black community.
Yes.
Okay. Everybody that's around me is my color or darker. They're Mexican.
Yes.
They're Mexican.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Black Mexicans.
Black Mexican. The majority of tourism, the Black tourism, at least that I see, are going more toward Cancun. They're going the other way.
And that's the Caribbean side, right?
Caribbean side.
Okay.
Acapulco is trying to have a comeback. Acapulco used to be the party center.
I remember hearing about it.
Oh, Acapulco used to be big time party center. And then the cartel and trafficking and stuff like that came in, and so it's trying to revive itself. My challenge that I have right now is that under the Trump administration, the state of Guerrero was put on the alert for high risk, which meant that we lost all of our sister city programs, our student exchange programs, things that we had worked on for 15 years, all went away because the students, the
Because
university.
Mexico wouldn't build the wall
Oh, yeah.
and pay for it.
So the community, the Black expat community, is growing more in Oaxaca. Oaxaca is right next door.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The Costa Chica region, or the southern part of Guerrero, the southern part of Oaxaca,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the landing points for Africans. And so most of the expat community is congregating in Oaxaca.
Mm-hmm.
Again, not having the restrictions of the stage 4 alert here in Guerrero. In fact, I'm going to do a student program, and I told them we're going to have to fly down to Oaxaca. I can't bring you in to get in.
And you know something, I think that that's something I would not have thought of when an area is on a high alert, that it affects things like that. I just I didn't think of that. Wow.
Think of how jobs lost.
Wow.
The economic impact on the community.
Do you feel like it was justified at all? Do you think is it a high risk area?
Well, as I tell everybody, I've been here 30 years and I don't hang out with the drug addicts. Okay. If you're not looking for trouble, you're not going to generally find it. And I'm not saying that there hasn't been extortion and all those other things. They just opened up a center within walking distance where I am of anti-extortion. So the government is trying to work on those kinds of things. But then I sit up and tell people, remember in the United States, how many mass killings so far this year? 300 and something?
Exactly. We should be on a 4.
Okay. Our kids are not being taught to get underneath the desk and hide from a killer.
Yeah, you get that a lot. You get that. Is it safe there? Well, where is it really safe? And are you really asking me this? You live in the United States, and when I'm in the US now, I'm on guard. I am not relaxed. It is the energy, it's a fearful type thing, like, something could happen at any minute, kind of thing. And I am just not relaxed. I wish my kids would relocate and live somewhere else that's safer. Our kids live in Texas and Florida, of all places.
Ooh, of all places.
Of all places. Our kids live in Texas and Florida. And, I get it. They're younger. They're both, they're raising, families, and, their outlook, perspective, and situations different than ours. We're retirement age, but I just want them to be safe. And I want them to know the difference. I think living in the United States without having a break, that we have become accustomed to living in a dysfunctional, toxic environment, that we just don't even recognize that we don't recognize that it's not like that everywhere, or that we're experiencing the feelings.
Well, to your point, Charlotte, people always ask me, why didn't you come back? Well, after the years started going by, and as I shed myself of that USA perspective,
yes,
I tell people, once you have experienced a greater level of freedom, why would you ever turn back to less? So that's why I never went back. Here, I tell this story many times. I grew up in the 50s, and when the first time I was called the N-word was we integrated a neighborhood, my family, and there was a little Japanese girl came down the street. Their family had just immigrated from Japan after the war. Now my father served. in the military.
Okay.
The little girl came down the street and said, "Oh, I can't play with you, you little dirty nigger." Okay? Because they were integrating into the
Into
American
the white,
society.
yes, yes.
So I tell that story from I was 4 years old. And those are the
And you never
memories.
forgot that.
Never forgot that because I had to come home and ask my mother what that was. I didn't know what that term was.
And called that by a foreigner.
And called that by a foreigner.
A foreigner. You know,
yes.
and all these years later, and I know it's been a while since you was 4.
I'm 73.
Oh my goodness. All these years later, we're dealing with the same thing. You know, I do cultural relocation tours to Panama. Okay. And at the end of the day, one of the main reasons that I wanted to do a cultural relocation tour was because the media and what the media portrays about us and what people think they know about us as African Americans, when they come here, they come with a level of disrespect from the beginning. They come disrespecting us and never having met us, you know, and so I feel like this. I bring Black people to Panama and introduce them to the relocation option, but baby, we spent a great deal of that time introducing them to the Black culture here, the Black culture, the contributions that the West Indians have made to that canal, you know, to the railroad, and how they have been able to preserve so much of their history, specifically in Cologne, in the Cologne province. They have a very strong Congo background, and to this day they are holding it up, you know. But when they come and they get that information, Patricia Ann, it actually grounds them here.
Yes.
It is the thing that says, you know what? We can relate to the story. We can understand that unless you ask to be told of the history that's not the history everybody wants you to know about, you're not going to get that history. But there's something about expressing that and teaching people that has them come here with a level of respect for locals.
Our cultures are so intertwined.
Yes.
They're so intertwined. I always say it's just a matter of where the boat stopped.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I've been in areas in Mexico where, like Donahue took me to Coajinequilapa, which is the largest Black town in Mexico. It's in the state of Guerrero. And when I walk through the town and everybody's looking at me and coming up to me, asking me, was I a member of this certain family?
Wow.
And so many people ask me, I asked somebody to take me to the family.
Mm-hmm.
They look just like me.
Wow.
I can see why I have a picture of me and one of the little grandkids, and you would think she was my grandchild. And for all we know,
mm-hmm. It could be the same family.
It could be related.
Yes.
It could be related. The other commonality is in art and song and dance. I always joke, Tony School of Dance, Detroit, Michigan, 1958. Because I can get down with the dancers, and it's tap. It's tap.
Wow.
And the commonality is that it's like you see the line dancing with the fraternities.
Yes.
Why is it the same here?
Yes.
It's because our men were chained by the ankle in the fields.
Wow.
And they had to step in unity.
Stepping. It was the stepping.
Wow. Stepping. They had to step in unity. So we have the dance here called Danza de los Diablos, where they do the stepping in unity. Devil. And I can get right up. They always come to me and grab me. Come on, Profa. I can get right up and dance with them. And they say, how do you know that?
Wow.
Tony School of Dance, Detroit, Michigan, 1958.
Well, and you'd be surprised at what's in your DNA, too.
It's the same thing.
Yes.
We have so many cultural overlaps.
Yes.
Likewise, our Mexican people don't know about us in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
How could they when
Right.
it's in a different language?
Wow.
I've
Very good
taken the
point.
professors from our tourism university to
Mm-hmm.
the United States because they had never been. I took the head of Mexico Negro to the Charles H. Wright Museum of African American History, and she got on her knees and cried because she
Wow.
didn't know about slavery in the United States
Wow.
and about apartheid and racial segregation.
And
How would they if it has not
exactly. And this
been?
is what they don't want. They don't want us to connect. They want us
No,
to think that we're not the same because we speak a different language or whatever. But the diaspora is amazing. And we don't have to go as far back to Africa to connect with our people.
no, we don't.
We don't.
No,
We don't have to do that. And my tour guide, my tour guide is Afro. He has a degree in Afro Panamanian history.
Mm-hmm.
And he often points out that we are so connected. And it's like, even if you go back, you get your DNA from whoever.com, and it says that, a majority of your people came from Nigeria. And you go back to Nigeria, he said, how many of those tribes and people are completely wiped out at this point? Are they even still
Do they
there?
exist?
You don't have to go that far. You don't have to go that far back. So I'm glad that you do that. And I would love to, at that group, that's how I found you in my group. I actually own that group, Black Expats in Mexico. And because I feel like Mexico is definitely a place for for people that want to be expatriates to consider. I did not expect it to grow and do the things that it has done, since I started it. And I am going to start making trips to Mexico. And the thing is that my focus is always on cultural awareness. So the Cancun, the Playa del Carmen, like somebody, the sister name is Courtney Bowden. She has Black expat stories, and she made a very good point. She said, you know what? Those regions are relatively new.
Yeah, they
In
are.
addition to that, she said, so I'm so happy. I'm always interested to see the things that you're doing. Let me shift gears because we're going to have to get ready to go. This has been an amazing conversation, but I want to talk to you about your publication and the work that you're doing now.
Back in 2009, we had the H1N1 flu epidemic.
Yes.
Okay. And even though my area did not have one case of it, at the time I was running a vocational teaching service. I had 5 teachers, and I've written 8 bilingual training manuals for the hotel industry. And we were working on language development. Mm-hmm. And when that flu hit, all of the human resource budgets got cut. So literally the business went out of business.
Wow.
And then the hotels are reaching out to me to say, help us. We need help in marketing. We got to pull these people back. Before we need to train the folks in English, we got to pull the folks back to get them there.
Right.
And that's when I came up with the concept of let's do some type of publication.
Mm-hmm.
Supported by the Hotel Association to start publicizing and doing activity. It started off with the Stoppers of Guatemala. Mm-hmm. And that's been 14 years ago.
Wow.
And it's grown to be a national publication. I collaborate with the universities, our local universities. I've invited guest contributors. Mm-hmm. I used to commercialize it. I would make about the equivalent of about $30,000-$40,000 off of advertising off the magazine.
Okay.
When my husband died and my whole mode went into getting property and doing all that other stuff, I cut out all the advertisements with the magazine. we're getting ready to revive it. In fact, I'm sitting working on a strategic plan right now, not
Awesome.
with advertising, but we want to sell local products, Mexican-made products
Okay.
through the magazine to the international market.
Wow.
So I can connect with a lot of our Afro-Mexican um, artists and craftsmen.
Yes.
Okay, to do some things that they would ordinarily not have that reach, that market.
Yes, absolutely. That's what's up. That's a wonderful thing. So okay, so that's the publication. And what is the name of the publication?
Imagine, it's up on the screen.
Imagine that.
Imagine-mexico.com.
Yeah.
We get about 4 million visitors a year.
What?
Again, it's 14 years old. I do 10 new articles every month. Do the math. 10 articles every month,
That's a
12 months
lot.
a year, 14 years.
Yes.
So a lot of it is history and culture. Basically, it's my classroom.
Okay.
What I have learned is
Yeah.
I learn it. My
Yes.
mother kept saying, you need a journal. You need to write all these things down. Well, after so many years, you know, the bookcase is just full of journals.
Yes.
And I started writing, and I had a woman come to me who was a website designer to say, look, I got to do something with you. Put the magazine up online. And so now it's a teaching tool.
Yes.
It's a teaching tool, culture, tourism, activities, and now we're going to go into product sales.
Do you get the support from the government, you know, or like a lot of locals?
A lot of locals. Again, I consult with Fonatur, which is federal. I've consulted with the state. They supply information to
Yes.
me. So all these resources and contacts that have been built up over some 30 years.
Wow.
Trying to put it,
You're deeply
again, I call
rooted.
it my classroom.
Yes.
We've got over some 600 articles on the site, and I can rotate, depending on what it is, I can rotate them some. And then I'm opening, that's part of the research project that we're working on right now in terms of the product sales. I also want our university students to get the experience in writing, because they have to have English skills for tourism.
Yes.
So I have offered the magazine, the platform up to our 2 universities, and they're going to conduct classes, writing classes, with the objective that those articles will be published.
That is amazing. Have you seen like an uptick in interest over the last few years?
Yes, as the expat community has grown.
Yes. Okay. Yes.
As the expat community has grown so much.
Yes.
In the last few years, one of the students was looking on the site, and Maestra Patty, we got some articles. There've been 200,000 hits on these articles.
Wow.
And then when we go back and look at the research, it's come in the last few years, and it's because of the growing
definitely expat community. So let me ask you this. I didn't ask you about Guerrero. Stop laughing at me.
Okay, no, this is a test.
Okay.
Say Kwahi Nikwi Lapa.
Kwahi
Nikwi Lapa.
Kwahi Nikwi Lapa. Kwahi Nikwi Lapa.
It took me 3 years to learn that.
Well, I couldn't say it again without saying it right after you. But tell me about where you live. Just briefly tell us what it's like. Is it like suburbs? Does it feel like certain parts of America we might be able to visualize? What do you think?
People tell me that when they arrived, it kind of reminds them of Miami. We're right on the beach.
Oh, wow.
Right, beach community. I'm 3 blocks from the beach. We were a small fishing village.
Mm.
Back in the 60s, Jacques Cousteau, you might remember the
Uh-huh,
adventure.
Jacques Cousteau, uh-huh.
He sailed his boat into the Zihuatanejo Bay.
Oh.
And that's what started the whole discovery
Discovery.
of Zihuatanejo. We're a small fishing village, only about 5,000 people. We've grown to about 135,000 permanent residents, and we grow to 500,000 people during the international tourism season. That's from November to April.
Wow.
So yeah, so tourism is the main industry. We used to be agriculture, well, still are. We're one of the agricultural states.
Mm-hmm.
Highest producer of mangoes, avocados, those kinds of things. The challenge is that with the rise in tourism, our kids are getting educated in tourism, but they're going and just working jobs, not business and economic development.
Yes.
So when the tourism goes down,
Mm-hmm.
then the economy falls apart.
Yes.
So
Wow.
that's why we are focusing on trying to get more entrepreneurial product development, services, those kinds of things in place.
I love it. So what is the nearest airport? What airport do you come in?
Zihuatanejo International.
Zihuatanejo.
ZIH. ZIH.
ZIH. ZIH is the airport. ZIH. And do you have to normally have to connect with Mexico City to go there?
Many times Mexico City. United has a flight out that goes through Houston and then here to Ziwa. We call it Ziwa.
Mm-hmm.
So bit by bit, people are discovering
Yes.
Black Mexico.
Yes.
In this part of Mexico, we don't have the number of hotels. We're smaller.
Mm-hmm.
Smaller
Mm-hmm.
area. So
is it more boutique-ish, like the hotel lines? Are they more boutique-ish?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's not as easy for a large group to come in.
Oh, we can accommodate large groups. We have a convention center.
Oh.
In fact, one of the meeting planners, the largest meeting planner, happens to be Afro-Mexican.
Wow.
They have recording studio, transportation.
What it's just so awesome to learn about different areas. It's like you going to Mexico, yeah. Where you going? Cancun, Playa del Carmen. What are some of the other ones? That Cancun is like the most popular one. But I think I'm interested in going in places where I can tap into the Black culture. So I appreciate what you do. I appreciate the information that you've shared here with us today. And just tell us about your mom real quick.
Well, my mother was, as I told you, my dad was a VP with Kentucky Fried Chicken, and he was gone all the time. So my mother said she had to find something to do. So she started all of these nonprofit organizations.
Yeah.
She was the first elected official of color for Southfield, Michigan. She's designated as the mother of Southfield, Michigan.
Wow.
And then she started the Dr. Martin Luther King Task Force.
Mm-hmm.
And the MLK Task Force is the one that has connected with Mexico Negro. We've done all these interchange programs through the two foundations.
Yeah.
So I was just back there because the city gave her this 500-person event where they named the street going up to City Hall in her honor.
Isn't that something?
Oh, that was just so great. I told them I had to leave them so I could come home and rest. I was telling you, we're in so many celebrations and dinners and all that other stuff. I said, Mom, I got to go home. I'm old. I got to go home and rest.
but to get your flowers, while you're here, I mean, what an honor. And then,
Yeah.
for your family and for her to be that legacy and for all the things that you have done. And then, to be able to say, that's my mama's street, baby. Her name is Barbara, right?
Barbara,
Uh-huh.
I just organized, I've worked with the Peace Foundation. So we have these peace poles put up here in Zihuatanejo and in Southfield, Michigan. And I wrote the mayor and said, round two, because he's been with my mother all this time. I said, round two, now you got me. And here is what I need you to do for the International Day of Peace. Here's your speech. Here's the program.
Yes. That's
awesome. The joke. That's the joke around town that, got another generation.
Let's do it. That's right. Well, it's the truth, really. So listen, tell us how we can find you, and then I'm gonna let you go.
Well, you can find me through the magazine's Facebook page, Imagine Mexico Magazine, my own Facebook page. I respond more off the magazine's Facebook page.
Okay.
I work behind the scenes.
Okay.
Generally, okay. You're not going to see me out front with photos and selfies and all that. I'm a structural worker. Yeah. I build the systems.
Yes. You'll find me. Where your strengths are.
So I invite folks to go on to the magazine's website, subscribe. Subscription is free, and it will always be free.
Wow. Always.
Always be free because it's an educational tool.
But you guys are getting ready to start taking advertisers again, right?
We're going to start selling products.
Okay. Oh,
I have had so many people over the past couple of weeks contact me about advertising and product sales. And so I'm going to hand that off. I'm sitting up doing a thesis report right now for the university. And I'm getting ready to hand that off as a whole project to them, have the university, the students get involved into it.
You are so busy.
Well, it's passing it on to the next generation, Charles.
Yes.
At 73 years old, and because I lost my husband, I've had that experience that I challenge everybody, mentor some young people.
Yes.
Take on someone.
Yes.
Start passing some of these things on. One of the young men who wants to be part of the group, he says, I don't have any money to invest. I said, you don't need money, you need talent. Okay? Yes. So invest in your talent. And here's a whole list of things I want you to do. And after those are accomplished, you can be a partner. That's it.
And that is where, meeting people where they are, being able to tap into your talents and actually do things that are fulfilling to you. It's just going to be success rather than just, having a job or trying to fit a square in a round hole, or something like that. So that is awesome. Well, I thank you for your service and I thank you for your time. And I feel very blessed to have had you on the show today.
Take care.
Thank you.
Wakanda forever.
I got you.